Penn State's going to make a New Year's Six bowl. I firmly believe that. Really, when you look at the resume, Penn State's lost to the number 2 and the number 3 teams in the country, 2 perennial college football playoff contenders. And I know the game is on Saturday. And it's great. Michigan and Ohio State will sort itself out who's going to go to the Big Ten championship. Maybe I should share my prediction on this show, but I like to talk about Penn State more than anything else. But when you look at the resume, Penn State handled business everywhere else. They shut out Iowa, who's going to the Big Ten championship, right? Iowa's in the top 25. Let's not forget about that game. They beat the brakes off of Maryland, 51-15. They won the non-conference games. I'm not talking about Delaware. I'm talking about West Virginia. West Virginia is a bowl team this year and was a very respectable opponent from what we saw when they went back into Big 12 play. So it's not like Penn State just beat up on UMass and Delaware types all season. They won every other Big Ten game where we know that they're going to beat Michigan State to close out the Big Ten conference play. But the debate that, oh, well, Penn State's probably not going to make a New Year's Six bowl. The New Year's Six committees would be insane. They would be crazy not to take the Penn State Nittany Lions in the bowl games. So the everydayers that know, that have been with the show, have stuck around, have watched it for the longest time, because we talked about the Rose Bowl. We had one of the first indications and made the prediction that Penn State was going to go to the Rose Bowl, and not necessarily, yes, you had to wait and see who they were going to play against, Utah or USC. But there were rumblings about, okay, where is Penn State going to go? And we were one of the first shows to talk about Penn State getting to Pasadena once again, and they did. So a year later, let's see if I'm right on the mark with this one. I got to go with the Peach Bowl as my pick for Penn State. I've explained this before. Some new listeners, some new watchers probably don't know how bowl games actually work. It's a selection committee. They don't say, okay, who's the 6 seed or who's the 10 seed, who's the 11, who's the 24. It's not about that. It's strictly about market, money. Money makes the world go round, right? Money makes college football go round, as we really learned with NIL. But this is the case with bowl games. The committees will take schools, will take teams that they haven't had for a long time, or haven't had, period. They haven't had, period, right? Penn State shouldn't have been anywhere near the Outback Bowl. That was a New Year's Day game, right? The Outback Bowl, where they lost to Arkansas and it wasn't a good game and everything. That was not one of the better Penn State teams. We know this. But the Outback Bowl, that was one of the last ones that I thought they would have played in. Why? Because the Outback Bowl committee sat back and said, we know that we're going to get the ticket sales. We know that we're going to get the merchandise sales. We know we're going to get the viewership on TV. Penn State has never played a school. They play a school like Arkansas very infrequently. That is a cool Big Ten versus SEC matchup. And it did. It drew the numbers, even though the Nittany Lions were blown out, right? But it's really about that. It's what kind of high-profile matchup we can get. The Peach Bowl has not had Penn State, and I don't think ever, but definitely in quite some time. Penn State and the Peach Bowl, if you listen closely, the Peach Bowl have given interviews, the Peach Bowl executives, and they say, well, what schools are you thinking? And the one quote by one of the higher up executives, Penn State makes a lot of sense for us. Penn State, right there. So you don't have to go any further than that. The evidence is right there. He's saying it, so I'm just taking and running with it, right? Penn State makes a lot of sense for the Peach Bowl. There's the possibility they could go back to the Fiesta Bowl, but the Fiesta Bowl has taken them already. This is, again, what it's about. The committees want to have schools that they don't invite very often. It's all about invitation. It's not the NCAA saying you need to take the fifth best school, the sixth best team, and put them together in a matchup. It's about what drives viewers, and it's all independent based. Yes, there's a pecking order. Some bowl games are going to pick before others. But the Peach Bowl, when they're up on the clock, think of it as a draft. It's a draft. When the Peach Bowl is on the clock, Penn State is most likely going to be available. They're going to take Penn State. Now, what team could they ultimately face? That's still yet to be said, because we still got another weekend slate of games. I can give some teams that are going to be hypothetically that they could go up against. Who's playing currently in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State? Ole Miss. Ole Miss could be a perfect matchup for Penn State. And they're close and they're relative. Oklahoma is another one. The Sooners. I would like these matchups. I could not wait to break these down, and hopefully we'd get enough players not opting out so that this would be a true matchup between two very quality teams out of this 2023 season. But Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Now, here's the one that people aren't probably going to be excited for because Penn State had this issue going into the Cotton Bowl. Tulane, Tulane. I don't want to see them face the Group 5 team. I really don't. You did that against Memphis. We saw how it went. If that's going to be if that's going to be the case, fine. The Peach Bowl can deal with that and the ratings, but people will watch solely because of Penn State. And Tulane is a feel good story. Hey, I maybe I shouldn't sweat Tulane because they did beat USC. They came from behind and beat USC a season ago in that bowl setting. So maybe I shouldn't talk so much trash about the Green Wave. But I would rather see Penn State play the likes of an Ole Miss or in Oklahoma. Those ones make sense, but ultimately the Peach Bowl committee will decide when it is their turn to pick two schools. Penn State's going to be in the Peach Bowl. I don't know if I want to jinx it or anything, but they've said that. They have admitted that they really want Penn State and that it makes sense for them to do. Now it's just a matter of who they could play. I think Ole Miss, Oklahoma would be ideal matchups and just ideal setups for the season to finish before we get to that 12 team college football playoff. So a loss here obviously takes Penn State out of the New Year's Six bowl consideration, but a win I don't think changes anything. I think the Peach Bowl fully intends to take the Penn State Nittany Lions and put them and that game's in Atlanta, of course, right? And it's going to be on December 29th, even though it's part of the New Year's Six coalition, if you will. But that's my prediction. I don't even know that it can be a prediction because the evidence is right there, and the Peach Bowl has said it. The Fiesta Bowl has been won again. The Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, they have taken Penn State in the past 5 years. They don't want that. The Peach Bowl, not the case. And that's why I think they'll end up there. I'll finish with this, and I'll keep it short. For Penn State, this has been the past 2 seasons, at least for me, and maybe people feel free to disagree with me, and you can let me know in the comments. But Penn State is in college football purgatory because they can't contend. We've seen Michigan and Ohio State. So, okay, we know that they're not truly elite. So, Georgia, Florida State, if they were at full strength, I know they lost Jordan Travis, would probably easily be able to beat Penn State on a neutral site. So where does that leave them? Because they beat up on team Maryland, bowl team, West Virginia, bowl team, and they blow them out of the water. Iowa, who is the Big Ten West representative, is going to, we'll see how the Nebraska game shakes out, right? But they're either going to be 9-3, they're 10 or 10-2. They're a top 25 team, and Penn State embarrassed them 31-0. So how good are the Nittany Lions actually? You put them up against the Tulane. We don't know for sure. Well, if they lose that game, we definitely do. We definitely know just how they should be evaluated. But I want to see them go up against an Oklahoma. I guess you could throw around a Washington. I think Washington makes the college football playoff. I really like what Kalen DeBoer has done with this team this year. Some people have projected that. But Oklahoma and Ole Miss, two very, very good, I would say elite offenses going up against that Penn State defense. That'd be a nice matchup. And then we finally get to figure out just how good the Nittany Lions were. Are they a firm, solid top 10 team? Or were they really overrated this whole time? And Michigan, but I got to look at it. Michigan should have been a 1-score game. Ohio State was a 1-score game. Penn State got closer, but it wasn't enough to push through the glass ceiling. Oklahoma, Ole Miss, yes, Washington as well, but I don't think they'll play them in a bowl game. But those two schools would be great measuring sticks, evaluations for Penn State to see just how actually good they are.